Hi, Thomas. When you're listening, can you tell me, can you hear me, please? All right, guys. Hello. Welcome back to lesson number 3.1. We are going to do more of object-oriented programming today. We are going to go in depth. Okay, so I'm going to show you many things. And you can follow this on your computer because so far we said, okay, let's set up Ubuntu or Mac in few versions. And hopefully you have that running. And then we set up Apache. And hopefully that's running for you. After that, we set up the PHP 7.3 and MySQL and imported the databases, which was a little bit of struggle. So might have some questions about that and answer them if you drop them in the chat. That I will see, hopefully. After that, we managed to copy some repositories, and those that we were supposed to copy were MyAdmin and AI-C Hub. And hopefully, at the end, we managed to get Xdebug, so we can go through the code and see what is happening. So everybody should be on that page. If you are not, if you are struggling, again, drop me a line, comment, whatever, so I can help you out, and we can be up and running. Okay? So what I'm going to do is explain again, recap what the object-oriented programming is, all right? Why is it important? And then I'm going to show you multiple examples in our code. And so you get more familiar with our code as a side effect, which then will hopefully allow you to be able to actually do some first tasks, okay? Because from tomorrow, you will have first tasks to do, okay? Real problems that you need to solve, all right? So Ahmed and Thomas are working on this, preparing the tasks for you guys. So, if they are nice, they'll give you an easy one. If they are not nice, well, tough. So, let's get started. I will just switch to this one so you can see my screen. If you remember last time, we created this test controller. We created a test view and we created root so we can open this test page. And we debugged that, so we can see what is going on. So hopefully, if you followed what we said last time, you will also have a YouTube test controller that is right now on my screen. And then you will have a thing here in roots, web roots. You will add this line, okay? In my case, it's YouTube example, which opens YouTube test controller and opens the function called home, which is this one right here. And after that, this function home opens a view called YouTube page, which is, depending where you are, it can be it's definitely in resources, but you might have additional folder themes, WXC, or not, and then you should have views. And I added YouTube Blade page here. Okay, and this is the page which basically lists every user's first name on the screen. And if I go on my screen, This is those first names of the users that I have in my database. So hopefully we are all on the same page, you all have all this. So, object-oriented programming. We talked about a thing called blueprint, all right? Blueprint is important because it defines what everything will look like. It's a description, okay? It's like a schematics. It's a blueprint is the thing which architects use to draw houses, okay? So if I want to draw a house, I will draw it on a blueprint. And it's colored in blue and has those white lines, so that's why it's called blueprint. So you can't live in a blueprint. That's the thing. You can't live in one. It's not real house. But you can imagine living in a blueprint. Okay, you can imagine, this is where the kitchen goes. This is where the toilets, this is where the bedrooms, this is where I can go to the balcony or whatever not. So you can imagine how it's going to look like based on a blueprint. You can't actually use that to live in it. But then you can create one instance of that blueprint, which is an object called house, okay? And you can live inside that house. But the beauty with these blueprints is I can create 50 houses, 100 houses like that. And they will all be identical because they are built on the same blueprint. But then what happens throughout the life of them, they are going to become slightly different. They will get different properties, okay? So it's not the same if it's Jerome's house, Andre's house, or I don't know, Lana's house. You know, they are different houses where you put different furniture inside, okay? Different families live inside. Maybe you have a dog, maybe you don't have a dog, or you have a kids, don't have a kid. So even if it was the same blueprint, the objects between themselves maybe at the beginning were similar, but then they are personalized, okay? That is what I called properties, okay? So each object has many different properties, okay? And they can be different for different objects, which even if they are from the same class. That's important to know. Sometimes they're called attributes or whatever, you know, but let's call them properties just to be on the same page. And then we also have functions, okay? So the stuff that we created, the real house has some functions. You can open the door, you can flush the toilet, you can heat the water, you know, those are the functionalities of the house which are built in. It doesn't mean that you cannot add your own functions to the house. Of course you can, and that's what you are supposed to do, okay? So we can use those functions. At the beginning, they all have the same functions, because they are from the same class, but as we build, they might have different functions. And sometimes we can use one function in one object multiple times and don't even use it in the other one, okay? So let's say, you know, you use a shower every day 3 times and I never shower, you know, so there's a function shower which you use, I don't, okay? Bad for me, good for you. So that's how it works in my mind. That's how I picture this. And I want you guys to picture this all the time, you know, this story, because it's so confusing when you get to the code. It has nothing to do with houses and showering and toilets and balconies and all that sort of stuff, but actually it does. And it doesn't matter as at PHP or any other programming language, same thing. So far, so good? We explained also that one class, one blueprint, can extend other blueprint. So we have a parent blueprint, okay? So we can have a parent blueprint buildings, okay? And the buildings have some properties. Every building has a door. So if our blueprint is a building and has a door property, and our house extends the blueprint building, it will automatically inherit the property door, which is very useful, so I don't have to define the same thing again and again and again. So if I have a flat, which is variation of the house, so I say flat inherits the house, and house inherits the building, they will all have door property. But then I can also say I have the class office, okay? And office also extends building, so it automatically gets a door. And same thing, we can go for windows. But the building extends some other class, some other blueprint, okay? Let's say it extends blueprint things, okay? So things typically have height, weight, mass, length, color, you know, so those things. So basically, if I define in things these basic stuff, okay, then every single thing that I inherited later on will also have these properties. So I define it on one place, in things, buildings get it, offices get it, houses get it, flats get it. Okay. What happens if I define the same thing in my blueprint flat? If I defined height, which is already defined in the first one, things. But it will overwrite it. It will use that height instead of default height that it inherited. So I can do that, okay? I can overwrite properties if I want to. I don't have to. And the same thing goes with functions. So if the things have function to, I don't know, you can bump into them and hurt yourself, okay? But then I have a thing called fluffy pillow, and I hit the fluffy pillow and I don't hurt myself. So this function, my leg hurts, doesn't apply anymore. So in a fluffy pillow, I can overwrite it to say, oh, this is comfy, instead of, oh my God, this hurts. So the functionality of hitting the object, such as house, brick, thing, can be overwritten and have slightly different things. So we can still inherit everything else, because pillow has height, width, weight, color, whatever, doesn't have doors. Well, it has some sort of doors because you can open it, so we can override that property with something which is more suitable. So it's important to understand how these work. But then when we look at our code is fragmented. That's the problem, because part of the code is here, but the other part is there, the other part is there, the other part is there. So we have to understand that it's not always on the screen that we are looking at, because it might be at some screen behind, okay? And we said that every single blueprint or class can make lots of new objects. And we use the word new to create a new object, and then we can do everything what we want to do, access the functions, read the properties, assign the properties, and all that. Unless the class is static, in that case, we don't have to make the object. We can access those functions directly if we need to. That's a rare case where would you do something like that, okay? And of course, that's the keyword new is not the only way to make these objects. There are other ways, and you will see some of those now. So that's a little recap of object-oriented programming. So now I will go to my controller, for example, okay? So the keyword here is class. So because I can see class, I know this is going to have some sort of blueprint for it, okay? the name of the class should match the name of the file that this is saved as. It would be very stupid if I call this yellow and the file is called red. Okay, it might be funny a little bit now, but then tomorrow when I'm looking for it, I will never find it. Okay, so that's why we name it the same. Okay, and you can see that this class extends some other class. So it means it gets all the code from that class. But it doesn't say here, does a controller class extend some other class, and that class, does it extend some other class? We can check that, okay? And the rule of thumb, it does, okay? So don't think, oh, this is the whole code. This is just a very small part of the code that is custom written for this specific class. So, every class in PHP, but any other language, has a constructor and deconstructor. Okay, so constructor happens as soon as I make an instance of this class. This is a little part of the code that executes on creation or on destruction if I need to. And if I delete these 3 lines, they are still there because, as I said, every class has it. So when I put them here, basically I'm overriding the default function. That's what I mentioned before. So this is the function that only this class has, not the previous ones that it extends. So this class, this function is called automatically every single time when I create a new object. If I create 500 new objects, each one of them will have this function and it will be called once. Okay? Good so far? We also like to put a thing called namespace. Again, this is not just PHP, it's pretty much every programming language, because we might have the class with the same name. Okay? And we do have the class with the same name many times because we import lots of vendor, other people's code in our code to make it easier for us. So we do have the duplication of the names. But this is why we have a full name of YouTube Test Controller, which is app, HTTP controllers, YouTube Test Controller. Okay? If I say here, user, okay? PHP says, okay, fine, I will look in the same folder, which is these files. Is there a file name and a class called user? If there isn't, I'm going to complain I can't find it. So I have to say here, the full name of a user class is app models user. So then it knows where to go and where to find it, okay? So it's here, it's in models, it's this one there. So very easy. As I said, I could have put app models user here. I could type that and would be able to not use the word use. So it's not mandatory, okay? But it makes my life easier later if I input these. In other programming languages, typically they are uses or import or something like that, so you get stuff in from elsewhere, okay? So we just have a reference to it. But they also have some slightly different functionalities, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so namespace use, I explained what this is. Okay, now, we also have this in every programming language, but every programming language decides to call it differently, okay? So this is referring to itself. What is itself? Okay? So if I have a class called house and I make an object Andre's house and Thomas's house, and I say this, what do you think? Is it a house? Is it Andre's house? Is it Thomas's house? Which one is it? Because I said it's referring to itself, but which one of those itself it is? The one that you are in right now is exactly the correct answer, because if I'm working with Thomas's house and I say this, it refers to Thomas's house. If I work with Andre's house and say this, it will refer again to itself, but in that case it's Andre's house. So it refers to the instance of the object I'm working with, okay? So when I say this is a variable, okay? But it's a special variable because I haven't defined it anywhere, so PHP defines it for us, okay? And as I said, every other programming language does something very similar. So this is a variable which contains the instance of itself. Okay? And then on that instance, I can do whatever I want. I can call a function, or I can do some property or something like that. Read the property, write the property. In this case, I say middleware auth. Okay? What is middleware auth as a part of our program? Okay, I'm not asking what does it do. What is it as a part of our program? So this is a variable as part of our program. What's middleware auth as part of our program? Function. That's a function. Okay, we know it's a function because it has stupid brackets, simple brackets. So everything which has so simple brackets, that's a function. Okay. So this is calling some function called middleware, and this auth is a parameter sent to that function. Okay? So this, which is YouTube test controller, which extends the controller, has some function somewhere middleware defined. So it's not defined here. I don't see it on my page, but it's probably in one of those parent ones, where this function is defined and does something. Okay? Now the biggest problem I have is, how do I know when I'm writing my software what to type here? How the hell do I know that I need to write this middleware auth, whatever it was? I already forgotten. And this is where thinking as a programmer comes handy, okay? So what do I want to do is my question. And then I type myself comment, okay? What do I want to do? Well, I want everybody who is logged in to access this controller or page, because I am displaying a page. But if they are not, go to the login, okay? And I can do view word wrap. Okay, I like this word wrap, so I don't have to scroll left and right. It just puts everything in a new row for me, okay? So this is what I want to do, okay? I don't want people who are not logged in to see a list of my users, their names, okay? Because as you imagine, if I'm not logged in, why should I be able to see some, let's say, private data, okay? So you have to be logged in. So, and I can Google this, okay? And I said to you guys, please do not Google, okay? Because what would you Google in this case? What would you type if this is what you want? Give me some examples. What would you Google? It's going to be a long session if nobody gives me example. What am I looking for?
Redirect unregistered user to login page.
No, okay, redirect registered user to login page, okay? Okay, PHP, okay, I'll add PHP, all right? So this is one suggestion, okay? It's not bad, it's not good, it's nothing, okay? You can come up with any other suggestion, and try it. You will never find the line of the code that I just deleted from here. You will never find it. So let me open 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these results. Okay, so this guy is talking about sessions, ESET, headers, example. Example is session start, if we set read, is this the code that I had? Oh my God, it keeps going on. Hey, it keeps explaining, oh, there's more code, brilliant. Okay, I have, oh, and now it also asks me to log in. So no, thank you, you are completely useless. Okay, username, MySQL, real escape string post, what the hell is this guy going on about, okay? You can use session function to achieve your goal. Don't mix SQL with SQLi. Has nothing to do with that line of the code, okay? So you can try copy paste all this, see does it work. And maybe if you're lucky, after 16 hours of copy pasting on page number 258, you will actually get something to work. And you will say, oh, it works. I hate this website. I don't know what this website, I guess they wanted the short Stack Overflow, okay? It's not that. Oh, I can watch a YouTube video, even brilliant. How long is it? 6 minutes. So let's watch this and see, it's not going to do it, okay? There you go. I can actually download this part of the code. So he's creating a table users in a database. He's creating the config file. Brilliant. And then if I want to read more, I need to sign up and so on. Okay, so I guess you get my point. It's not going to tell you what to do if you just Google it. And the person who suggested this is not stupid. Because if anyone else suggested, they would say something along those lines and we will have similar results, okay? So we can't do that. What did I say? Don't Google last time, but what did I say to do? Read the documentation, okay? Now this is the important part because the documentation that I'm referring to in this case is Laravel, okay? So this is a framework. And I said this framework comes with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different functions and functionality that are commonly used to design web pages. And they do have the functionality to do exactly what I wanted them to do, okay? So if I say Laravel middleware, okay, so I just want to Google this but I want to go to laravel.com and this is a middleware thing, okay? But why would I search for middleware? It has nothing to do with the English sentence. I didn't mention middleware here, okay? I'll come to that in a second. So if I read this text, okay, blah, 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 defining middleware. And if I do all this, again, it doesn't help me one bit. But here, it mentions my middleware auth that I'm using, okay? And if I go on and go on, middleware groups, and go on and go on, sorting out middleware parameters, this explains the whole bloody thing on the middleware, okay? But it didn't have that line of the code that I just added. It didn't. So even if I specifically know it's middleware, somebody gives me a hint, in the documentation, they are not going to tell me that. That's not what the documentation is for. Okay? And one thing, make sure that you are using the correct version of the documentation, because they do add functions all the time. And they develop this extremely quickly, so every month there is a new version. Okay? So if you are not using the correct version of this, you might try to apply a function which doesn't exist in your code, or apply a function which used to exist and now it's no longer available. Okay? So when you are reading this, please, please, please make sure that you got the right thing. Okay? So I didn't answer the question, how do I find this information? How do I know to type, well, wherever it is, you know, oh my God. Control Z, where was that line? How do I know to type this? Well, the way I do it, I find a similar page which does the similar functionality. Okay? So I find example code which does similar functionality to this one, but I have to understand what that code means. Okay? So when people show me something and say, Andre, I have a problem, I was like, let's see, and then they start scrolling up and down like mad, I want to cut their hand off. Don't scroll, okay? Because you need to read what is in front of you. Don't scroll, because all the answers are typically in front of you, okay? But you have to understand what this means. Don't go to the next page unless you understand what this means, okay? And do not try to remember what it means, because that's just too much. Your head will explode, literally, okay? I have full cupboard of previous developers who tried that and boom, you know, so don't try to remember this, okay? So what I'm trying to remember is that, oh, I've seen that somewhere, okay? And then I try to find that bit in the code, and then is this. So I have to analyze the existing code, see what is happening, okay? And then that's how they did it in a very similar application or same application. Because we have so many applications here, pretty much everything is resolved, okay? So I asked my colleagues, hey, how do you do this? And somebody is like, yeah, I use that middleware. I can't remember exactly, but you got a hint, so you're going to search for middleware in the code and see, that's how it works. And then you can check the documentation about the middleware and read a little bit about it so you're familiar with it. And then you just forget about it, but then 3 months later, when you need the same thing, you will remember, there was something about middleware, let me, you know. So unfortunately, to guess all these lines is impossible. And then furthermore, it's even more impossible to guess the syntax. Do I put comma or semicolon or semi-exclamation mark or full? Don't try to remember the syntax. Syntax is easy. You can add multiple extensions which will check your syntax and suggest the correct one as you type, so you don't have to do that, or Google the syntax, easy, okay? So you don't have to worry about that. The problem is finding the right code, the line of the text, okay? So when I tell you guys, if you want your controllers to be checked, are you authorized or not, are you logged in or not, that's the Laravel way of doing it. It's very simple, it's one line of text. Don't have to remember it, just remember that it exists. Does that make sense? So, I want to finish again with the explanation of this function home, okay? This function home can have in front of its word private or static or something like that, okay? If it doesn't have any, it's private, it's public, okay? So other parts of the code can call that function. That's what it means, okay? I don't have to say public if I, So this function is available for any part of the code to call. Okay? And what does it do? Okay? It says, I will define a variable and I will call this variable users. And in PHP, all the variables, for some reason, have to have $sign in front of them. If you go to JavaScript, you will figure out very soon that $sign doesn't mean it's a variable. Typically, it means it's something to do with jQuery, so it's a little bit confusing, okay? But it's just a syntax, don't worry about that. So in JavaScript, all the variables, no $. It works perfectly fine. No problems, okay? So $, is what I need to define a variable. But in some other programming languages, I have to define what type of variable it's going to be, declare it, and so on before I use it. In this one, I just create it like this. Okay? So the variable users equals. Equals is a command which says assign the value from the right to the variable on the left. It's an instruction command which tells it always from the right to the left. So whatever is the expression on the right, computer will try to resolve that expression, and whatever the result of that expression, it will be assigned to the variable on the left. Okay? So I have here a user, which is a class, which is some sort of class which I use this thing, and this thing in PHP means that I'm going to call a static method, so I'm not going to make an instance of the user. I'm not going to make a new user, okay? So I'm calling the function where. And this is again Laravel's function, okay? So it's a function. How do I know it's a function? Brackets, yes. And then I have another function, get. So I have two functions. This is called daisy chain. I'm daisy chaining the functions, okay? Daisies are flowers, and you can make a chain out of them and put it around your head and look pretty if you want to, okay? So highly recommended experience if you never tried it. So which one is first? Don't know, don't care. Okay, so it executes this code. But where is this code? Where is it written? So let me show you. Okay, so in order to show you, I put a breakpoint here. And I will go to my debug and I will click play. But if I click play now, it's going to complain because it's already running. I can see this orange line here. I can have this little guy which gives me these controls, stop, play, and so on. So let me hit stop. Okay, so now this is blue. I click play, turns in orange. I go to my website. This one, and refresh this page. Boom, it stopped here. So before I explain what exactly this does, because as I said, this is going to be in depth, I want you to see what I have on the left. Okay, I have all my breakpoints in the code, because when you keep putting them on, at some stage you will be, oh my God, how many breakpoints I have. This bloody thing keeps stopping every 3 seconds, except where. So here you can toggle them, disable them, clear them, and so on. Okay. You can put a breakpoint on exception, so every time when it throws the error, it will actually stop before it shows you that page, so you can see inside the code. So that's very useful. Okay. Don't check stop on everything, because it will do exactly that. It will stop on every single line. Okay, so breakpoints, useful. But this is, okay, and can I make this bigger? Yeah. Call stack. You remember when I talked a few weeks ago about Apache, how Apache has that .htaccess file, which says whatever you get, just point it to index.php. It doesn't matter what URL you typed in, is it youtube.com or whatever it is, put it to index.php. So this is what's called. The first one was called index.php. Okay? And inside this index.php, it is calling variable kernel, function handle, and it's passing the request that you, as I can guess, it has a HTTP request, so it's the request that I just sent. Give me that YouTube page, okay? So this is calling some kernel, okay? So you can see that it's for trying to figure out, okay, what the hell is handler of this kernel, because this is the first line of, this is one line of code, because it's in PHP, one line of code can be on multiple lines, but it's one line of code, so it ends here with the semicolon. It's not 3 lines of code, it's not 3 instructions. It's one instruction is just for easy reading typed in 3 lines of text, okay? So first it's trying to figure out what the hell is kernel, and then it will call the function handle, okay? So this is the function handle, and then this function handle, as you can say, it takes a request. So the request is a parameter which is inside of these 2 brackets. So that's the parameter which is passed into the function handle, okay? And then what it do is refers to itself, to that kernel, and then says call this function and pass that request further on. Okay, so the function is a send through request, which I can see here. So that's a function send through request, which then says, okay, do pipeline, and then it will call pipeline, and then the pipeline will call somebody else. So it will call some middleware. Then it will go back to pipeline, go back to the kernel, and then it will go to the. So you can see how many things Laravel is doing in the call stack. So every single time when we call this thing, it does pretty much all of this stuff. And each part of the step I can see what and how does it work. So I will click play. Okay, and I got my page. Let me do this one more time. Okay, but I don't care about call stack. I explain what the call stack is. So If I want to see what is the, so this is the last one. This is my controller YouTube, but the one who called that was this guy, routing, and the one who called that one is this guy before. So you can see it's who called what. Sometimes, but that's rare, that in previous steps something went wrong and then your code doesn't work because you have to actually check previous step. But with Xdebug and all this, if it's set up properly, you can see everything, so. What I'm going to do here, if I press step over, it will execute this line. So now we are stopped just before this line, it hasn't been called yet. If I press step over, it will execute and do this, but I will do step into this time, okay? So what is it going to call first? Is it going to call where or get or user or this comma? I don't know. Let's see. Step into, okay? So it's calling a thing called model, okay? Fine. And then it's calling a function get. Okay, fine. And then it's called, so that's a very quick one, okay, because I didn't step into each one of those. Okay, so I'll click play again, and then I will refresh this page one more time, because I can do this step in. So step in, step in. Step in, step in, step in, dum, 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 dum. So I'm just stepping in, and as you can see, it's calling with bloody needles and haystack. What does that have to do with anything what I'm doing, okay? That was just something that said call magic. So register global scopes, brilliant, okay? But we can see how much code is executed. So these guys in Laravel, but not just Laravel, because Laravel is just stealing all the good stuff from everyone else, open source, which is great. So the people in PHP community in wider put this stuff together, okay? So all this code they created for us in order to have one line of the code which does thousands of different things, okay? So eventually at some point it will connect to the database and make a query in the database, because we want to make a query to the database to say go into the database, get all those users that I want, and then it will keep going it, and modifying this data till we finally go back. We're still doing it. As you can see, it goes on forever. So I'll just say step over now because it's getting ridiculous. Done. And I got my users. Okay. So I just want to show you how complex this is. So if I was to write the same code myself without using a framework, I would be dead. It will take me ages, okay? So it's exactly the same in other framework. So if I'm using React Native, surely there is some sort of database in React Native, surely there are users in React Native, and surely there is one line of code in React Native which will fetch me the users from that database. And then I can also specify if I want to filter those users. I don't want all users, I want all the users which have identified as male or whatever older than 20 years old. That exists, okay? So I need to check the framework's documentation to see how it's implemented. But it's implemented in extremely similar way. It doesn't matter if they chose to use not MySQL, but MongoDB or something like that. Makes no difference. The concept is the same. So you need to learn the concept and understand the concept, okay? So I want to get all users. So I say users. If I have a condition, I put it where, like this. And I put a function get, which will then go to the database, get all the users which match this condition, return them to me. What we care about is how, what sort of format these things are in. And last time I showed you, but I'm going to show you again. So if I refresh this one more time and just step over, I can see that variable users is Illuminati Database Eloquent Collection. Okay? So I go to Laravel and search for collection. So Eloquent Collections. Okay? So I can read about this, and funny enough, they use the user example, so nice and healthy, you know. But they don't use the same one, but I can say, aha, this is how they do it here. So if I don't want active users, but I want users which are older, which are, I don't know, 10 years old, I will put age 10. And hopefully it will work, and actually it does. And then when you read this and scroll through this, it tells you, you can do multiple things, okay? On the collections, you can find, you can do, you know. And each one of these is clickable, you know. So if I click, I can read how does that work, okay? And it explains, okay, if you put contains, so we can check if I already have a collection, does a person contain there? So if I have a list of all my users which are males, and it says, okay, is user Andrei a male? So is he in that collection? If he is, proves the point. If it isn't, okay, then I can select some, or I can sort them out, or I can, you know, modify them in any way that I want to, you know, find the missing ones. So it explains you all these things, you know, which I will only use if I really need to. So I don't need to read and learn all about this, because 95% of this stuff I will never use in my life. But I just need to be aware somewhere in my mind, what the hell is a collection, because it's an important thing, and what the hell can I do with it? Okay? And a collection is basically a list, an array, or whatever you want to call it. It's just a list of objects. But they are objects of the typically same type. Okay? So this is a collection. So it can be a collection of users, but it can be a collection of houses, collection of cars, collection of any type of object. It doesn't matter. It's a collection. Okay? So each element of the collection is a user. So the first element is a user, second one is a user, third one is a user, and so on. So this function get, if I read Laravel documentation, they have many functions get, but the get function which I'm applying on the model, such as user, will always return a collection. And with a collection, I can do many things. I can say, find me the first element of collection, last element, find me all the elements, check is Andrea in that collection, and I can iterate through the collection, say go for each one of them and give them 50 euros, doesn't matter, I can do whatever I want. So if I want to do with group of users, I will use collection in Laravel. And as I said, any other programming language has a similar thing. If I want just one, then I'm not going to use a function get, because get gets collection. So if I put, instead of this, I click that and I replace this with first and click play. Not click play, just refresh the page, which will then so if I go over this, so now the users is not a collection, because this function first doesn't return a collection, it returns the item of that type that I was looking for, okay? So it returns the first user who declared this function, okay? So I can see who is that guy, who is the mail list of them all, or who is the first in my database, basically, and check all its variables. So somewhere here it's attributes, and this is the guy, okay? So it's very important for me to understand what the functions are returning, because then my next part of the code will have to deal with that. It will have to do something with it. But then we have naming conventions, okay? And I have to talk about that a little bit as well, because PHP, they say, oh my God, naming conventions in PHP are horrible. You can name variables however you want, okay? I had some developers which were really inconsistent, okay? So you would have one variable user, okay? And then the next variable would be user, and then, I did this automatic, okay? And then he would have another underscore user, okay? And then he will have another user, okay? So this is the naming conventions, okay? And I said, please call the variable as close as possible to what it represents, okay? And the first thing that you need to think about is plural or singular. So if I call my variable users, it means there are many of them. If I call it user, it probably means that it will be only one of them. So I can do that. And if I run my code again and step over these two, you can see that user is a single user and users is a collection. Okay? And if I press play and swap this around, of course it will work. So I step over. So now user is collection and users is a single user. Okay? You see how it's easy, if I'm not paying attention, to confuse myself, because I expect that users, there will be many of them. Okay, so be very careful how you name your variables and follow this simple rule. Okay? Plural, singular. Okay? So this is not very good, because you will confuse yourself, but then you will also confuse everybody else who is looking at your code after you, who's like, what the hell is she called it users when it's only one? I tried to go through the loop of them, but there is no loop because there is only one, or why the hell he called it one user and then he gets thousands of them assigned there. So that would be, but for PHP it doesn't matter, you could call it whatever you want. Yes?
How do we know that we're not renaming stuff and overwriting it from the parent classes, for example?
So how do we know we are not overriding it from the parent class? That's a fantastic question, okay? And the answer is I can see all the variables right here, okay? So class itself will not have any values because it's an empty blueprint. So I'm not going to risk overwriting something because it's an empty blueprint. So when we define the classes, typically we don't say users are so and then you override that. You might want to have constants. Okay, so constants would be something that's constant, so it doesn't change. So it's not that sometimes it's this group of users, sometimes that group of users. It's constant. So we like to put constants like, okay, genders, for example, they don't change too often. So we can define that. But then the second part of the question, why I like that question was, well, there is a scope of variable life, okay? Because if I call in some other controller the variable users, and I call it in this users, how does a computer know which this I am referring to? Well, it keeps them all separate. So I have thousands of objects called, I don't know, whatever they're called, they're in collection of users. And each one has a variable called, I don't know, age or property age, and each one of them is separate. So when I say this age, it means the age of me, you, whoever, doesn't matter, I can't override them. So with the naming of variables and so on, typically you are not going to risk overriding something else because the scope of variable is local. And the scope of variable can be very local because it can be just in this function home. Because if I say dd users, remember, this will work here because I just defined it. But if I copy this and paste it here, it's not going to work. It doesn't know in this function what this function does, plus this function is executed before. So undefined variable user, and it is in line 10. It doesn't know what the user is, but I just told him it's here. But it doesn't work like that. So if I put last, and refresh this page, did I mean latest? I guess they changed latest. Whatever is the right thing. So, you see, this user is not defined. There's no users. Because this one did execute, and it had a value, but when the function is gone, variable is gone. So they have also this very short life cycle, unless I use them as a property and so on, they are very, very short in life cycle, so I don't have to waste resources. They quickly go out. As soon as I'm outside of the function, if I didn't save that variable somewhere, it's going to be gone.
What if it's outside of the function, but inside the class, and then the class is extending another class? Because then you can rewrite it, and then
So she's asking if I put it, let's say, here.
How would it know it's like it's the same variable?
Well, for us humans, it looks the same. For us humans, it looks the same, but for the machine, it's not. And this is why what I'm trying to explain to you guys. Okay, what are the differences? This is why I'm going in these great details, because you have to understand the code. And I'm spending already 1 hour on 3 lines of code. And we still have more and more questions, okay? So in order to understand the code, you can't just scroll through it and say, I know it. No, you don't. You have to spend this amount of time or more to understand and ask all these questions, okay? So I just can't do this, even VS Code, underline this in red, says, well, why the hell did you put it there? That's not how it's done. That's not, this, if you want to define a property of this class as a static, there's a completely other way. So I can't do this. So that's a simple thing. Okay, so, and it complains and tells me there's a syntax error, so I can't do this exactly. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is going to have a 3-4 minute break, and then we are going to go in the more complex part of the code and do exactly the same. So we are going to do more of this, more of how the hell these objects work, how do I access them, how do I change them, how do I do that sort of stuff. So 3-minute break, and after that we are going to reconvene for 4 minutes or so. So I'm going to test scene and All right, guys, let's reconvene if you don't mind. So I asked you to install AI-SIG application, and in AI-SIG application, if you install it, you will have it like this, and then you have a menu called dashboard, which takes you to the broken page. So it's incorrect, fine, no problems. But if I go to AI-SIG here in the URL, it should open this page, okay? So a few of you, I asked, gave a little task, little thing to play with. I said, put me a breakpoint in the controller which displays this page. Okay? So, how would I know what is this page, what is the controller, and so on? How would I do this? Any ideas? Come on, guys online, how would you do this? How would I find the page? So there is this page, there is a controller which displays it, and then there is a URL which I requested. So I want to put a breakpoint inside of this controller.
You inspect.
I inspect, okay? If I inspect anything here, so right click and say inspect whatever it is, I'm inspecting the front end, the result of the whole calculation and everything, you know, just the HTML and JavaScript. So that's not the, I don't care about the front end.
View-based source.
View source. But the page source is HTML. It has nothing to do with Laravel and all our controllers and so on, what we talked about, you know, so it has all to do with visuals and so on, so at some point it will say whatever, you know. But this is not our code. This code is generated by our server application, which in this case is a Laravel application. And this page that we have here shows me these letters, and then shows me all the stuff which begins with A. So it's some sort of list of all the health conditions which begin with A. And if I press B, it shows me all the get alphabetical links B. So nobody is giving any suggestions online. Fine. Okay. So let me close these two. And this is one thing what I notice, people keep open 1,000 tabs and browser and then 1,000 tabs in your VS Code. Close them, please. Okay? You only work on 1 or 2 files, so keep those 1 or 2 open. You know, it makes perfect sense, you know, otherwise it's so hard to find stuff what you're looking for. Okay, so AI-SIG is a folder name. And this is where my application is. So when I go to the URL appsource.com/AI-SIG, the server goes to this folder and tries to find index.php or index.html if it exists. If it doesn't exist, it's going to redirect back to the home folder, so to the index.php, which is this one here, okay? Because it exists, it will start this Laravel application, which is AI-SIG application in this case. So it's another Laravel application running in parallel. And this one has its own web roots, okay? So this is a home page. This is if I don't add any additional stuff after AI-SIG in my URL, okay? So, and I didn't. So the home page is this. So it opens a home controller and opens a function called index, okay? So if I go to where the controllers are, app HTTP controllers, I do have a home controller. okay? And see what happens, you know, I had a web PHP and now I have this one instead, and this is annoying and useful, okay? If I click once, it opens it, but it makes this italic, like that. So if I click on this one, this is like a preview. So if I want it to stay here open, then I have to double click. And then it's not italic, so it will stay open as a tab. If I click here, I can also double click on this word to make it from italic to that, you know, so. Home controller index, home controller, some test, index, okay, so breakpoint. And if I reload this page, boom, I am there. Okay, so we have to remember how the computers work, okay, and then it's very easy to find the right controller and right function and put this breakpoint inside the code, okay. So let's analyze this functionality, okay? So it says $alphabet. What is $alphabet as a part of the program? It's a variable, okay? So this is a variable which is, as we learned just now, is going to be used for 3 seconds and after that discarded, okay? So as soon as we finish with this function, there's not going to be any variable alphabet, okay? So there is a word, there is a symbol equal, which is a command which assigns whatever is on the right to the variable on the left, okay? And you've seen this very similarly just 5 minutes ago, okay? So what is this green alphabet?
It's a model.
It's a model, okay? It's a class also, so it's, but this class extends model, so that class alphabet is a class, first of all, but because it extends a thing called model, it is also a model, okay? And then it calls the function where, so it's going to search in some sort of alphabet, letter A, we have seen this like gender male, age 10, whatever, okay? So this is some sort of filtering, and then we have a function get, which will get all those as a collection, okay? So we know that after I finish this line of code, alphabet will be a collection. This is its full name, but it is collection, okay? Just like we had the users before, okay? So the elements of this collection are objects of type alphabet, okay? And it has one element, okay? And it has attributes, letter A. So it figured out the first letter of alphabet. Brilliant. I thought he might actually do this much simpler. So I haven't got a clue what the hell is this developer doing here. Okay? I know that he is, but it's letter A. You are searching for a letter A. You said search for letter A. And he is putting that in collection because he knows there is only one letter A. Mind-blowingly. A little bit silly, okay? But there is more. It's not that silly. Because we now look at the thing, because he called it my result. My result. So let's say I had an exam and my result was 58% or whatever it is. So when you say my result as a name of variable, that would be my result. And you all might have a different thing, but it's not going to be exactly what, the proper name. So it's a little bit confusing. So we have a JSON decode. What's JSON decode as part of the software of our program?
When you use JSON, that's how you communicate.
What is it as a part of the program? Function. Okay, so it's function. Okay, so I know it's a function. It does something. Everything inside the bracket is a parameter. So it's passing a parameter. Okay, and a parameter is alphabet, our variable that we just got here, the first element of the array, and then another array called result. So you can see here that he didn't just get letter A, but he also got a result. Okay? And if I put my mouse over, it will give me the result. Okay? And you can see, and I don't know, can you see it? It's a very small, but this result is some sort of data structure. Okay? And typically what we use is JSON, so it's a standardized data structure. So this is what he is decoding, because the result will be in this structure of the data called JSON. So he's decoding that in some other structure. Okay, so let's see what happens if I step over. Okay, so my result is going to be an array of 85 elements. Okay, and each element is a standard class. So it's anonymous object. It's an object which has no specific connections to anything, okay? So the first one is description, link type, URL. The second one is description, link type. The third one is description, link type. Oh, that's exactly what I see on my page. Okay? So description, link type, description, link type. So this alphabet, it didn't just get the letter A, he also got every single condition with this letter A. But when he got it, it was all in JSON format, so he had to unpack that JSON using JSON decode. Okay? And then he says, give me a view, this specific one, and pass the variable my result. You remember this compact is used to pass the variable, and it's horrible programming because I would expect to put $my result. This is what annoys people about PHP, this inconsistency, okay? So you just have to remember that if I put $my result here, it's not going to work. I have to put it in these quotes. When you remember it, you will get used to it, but this is horrible. So somewhere I have a word this, so let me Control-C this, and then try Control-P and paste what I found, okay? And I found this one. Get results by curl blade PHP. Again, another catchy title. But this is my HTML, this is my page, okay? So I explained that in order to display all the stuff left, right, header, left bar, top bar, we use layout. So we don't have to type that on every page. And if we have a specific style sheets or specific JavaScripts for that page, we can add them in a section for that. But what we are doing is content, okay? So first things first, he put get links A, B, C, D for every single letter, okay? And then he said for each my result as a result, okay? So my result is this JSON decode, 85 elements. So it's going iterating through every single one of them, okay? And then says this, and then it says that, and then it says that. What the hell is going on here? I know what's the result, I can see the result. So I can see a list of all those 84 things, okay? So I can see that he has a title and then it has some link, okay? So, but why is he doing this? Okay? So result URL. So this is a result. So this is a result. So each one of this is a result, okay? So this URL is HTTPS API NHS conditions, okay? So he is calling str replace. What is this as a part of the program? Function. So this function will do something. It takes multiple parameters, okay? And I can check what these functions are doing. Now, this is a second function that we saw at the moment, which is not a Laravel function. This is a built-in PHP function. How do I know? Well, I remembered it, okay? But PHP functions. Okay, so I'm hoping that I will find, I can't remember, W3 schools, I don't care, PHP, okay. So this is the PHP's main thing, so string replace. So this is a function of PHP, which we have many. And I can see exactly what it is doing, okay? And this explains to me this function, all right? So it replaces one part of the string with some other part of the string, okay? So if my name is Andre and I want to replace word A and D with dumb, I will use this function. So then my name will not be Andre, but it will be Damdre or something like that, okay? So this is what it replaces it. And then it says, explains what you need to pass, okay? And gives you example, okay? So if you put vowels, A, E, and so on, replace vowels with nothing in this hello world of PHP, then as a result you will have something like this, okay? That's because it took every single vowel from this string and replaced it with nothing. So what this developer is doing here is actually something very similar. So he is replacing that with nothing in the results URL. So why is he doing that? Or is it even working? So HTTPS API NHS conditions, so he is replacing that with nothing in result URL. And then he is also replacing that with that, an endpoint. And then he echoes get details by URL, final endpoint, result name, result URL. What? So result URL, as I say result, is each one of these results. So he's printing out a result URL. So he's printing out this whole URL, which I can see on the screen. This is a whole URL, it's unchanged. Okay? And I can see result name, which is result name, which is this text here. So that's the text. Okay, that's the name, that's the link. Okay, but he has a reference. So when I click on that, see what is happening here. What I want you to look at is the bottom left of the browser, okay? And I can't move my mouse because it will disappear, okay? So that, okay? Because if it's a GET request, it will tell you what the GET request is. So he wants to generate a specific link for some reason, okay? I have no idea why it has to be this link. So he says get details by URL, then this name, Acacia, so he put the name, and then he put these zero, azerty zero, as some sort of link, okay? It's not very good. I think he didn't think of a better solution for whatever he was trying to resolve here. So this is, but I guess he wanted to have a unique link for all of them. So if I do this, acid and chemical burns, again, you know, that this one, see what he did here, he got rid of this vestibular whatever. So that's his link, that's the one, okay? So he was generating links, okay, which I don't think was necessary here, but if it works, developers don't like to change it too much, okay? But it makes it very hard to understand. So I had to spend 10 minutes trying to figure out what is this doing, and now that I know what it is doing, I'm still asking why. Why is he doing this? Okay? It would be so nice if he put a comment in the code saying, hey, I need to change the URL because of so and so, so this is me changing the URL. So I don't have to figure out this manually. But I still don't know why is he changing the URL, but let's leave it as that. Another thing what I just want to show you here is when we are doing this, we need to format stuff properly, okay? So this is the UL. So this is a list of HTML elements. And then inside of that list, he has this for loop. So this is going to repeat multiple times. In this, our case, 85 times. So it's going to calculate this link of him, okay? And then he has this line, which I kind of don't like, okay? So he has a li element, but you know, I like this to be a little bit easier to read, okay? So this is in li element, I have my a link, I have my paragraph. Did I just delete stuff? Probably. Yep. Well, it's just this. Where is the end of li? Either I did, no, it doesn't have it. View page source. So now I need this view page source because it looks like this is not done properly. So let's look for the word burns, okay? So I can do Control F, okay? So he has li, didn't close it. Not very good. But as we said, this version of AI Siha, this was a prototype. So this wasn't for any customer to see. This is just for him, very quick code to list all the conditions and see does he have them and can he get them, So he didn't care too much about what's going on. So there is a word hello here on this page, which is just, some testing. So he put it there, he didn't remove it, okay? We have many things like this, okay? I have my favorite developer who used to swear in Bosnian quite a lot, okay? And I do the same thing, So he would have all sorts of let's call it male genitalia and other words in the code, okay? And he would just type that everywhere. And then he would push that to our repository. And the guy who did this actually asked me, hey, Andre, what does this mean? Because he doesn't understand. It's a foreign word for him. He can't Google it, or he can, but he didn't want to. So he's like, what is this guy on about? What are all these things that he's writing in my code, What do they all mean? And I'm like, oh my God, you are so innocent and so on. But it's really embarrassing, if we are putting, okay, this guy put hello, but somebody else can put, dead children or stuff like that, or swear word and so on. It may be funny for you while you're doing it, but please don't do it, okay? So we need to put, even if we are doing something very quickly to test something, we need to put the comments and explain it, name stuff properly so it makes sense. So next time when we get to the code, we actually understand how it works, what it does, and we can reuse that somewhere else, okay? So that's a condition. It is all right, it's not too bad. The code works, but it can work much better. And of course, you can, see he has hello on every single page, okay? So let me copy this hello, because he has it on every single page, and this is AI Siha app, and this is the views. I can right-click on views and find in folder hello, okay? So he has a console log hello, my function. So there is a JavaScript which writes it. Is that what writes hello on my pages? I don't think so. Delete. Nope, it's still there. So this hello is still there, okay? So I just search in whole views for the hello in AI Siha. Find in folder. Where is hello coming from? When I search for the whole project, of course, it's going to create thousands of these files, okay? One thing what somebody taught me, if you click on this, it just shows you this, okay? So what I care about, see, this is vendor folders. It's not going to be in vendor folders because these are all the plugins, okay? So this is controllers. Why does it say in mobile controller hello? Well, it has my HTML. So maybe it's coming from the actual controller. So let's try to change it to something else. That's not how you debug, but still not. So it also has it on this page, so let's put something in front of it. Well, there you go, it's this one. So you see how I relatively easily found the specific word, okay? And I proved to myself this is the one. So it's not this one, it's this one. But what the hell is he doing here? Well, it's very interesting, at least to me. Because in this blade, he was replacing slash with this word. In this controller, he is replacing that word with slash. What? So, and this is called final endpoint, and this was called final endpoint. So he has endpoint and final endpoint, confusing as hell, no idea what he's doing. Why is he in my blade function replacing this with that and then going back to it? But hey. So then he is calling some API to get that, I don't know, and he gets my result. No idea what's going on. Let's see again what is going on in here, okay? So I'll put the breakpoint there, and I will refresh this page. Is my debug running? It's not orange, so it's not running. Boom. Okay, let's have another look, okay? And I'll try to be relatively quick with this one, okay? Because let's try to speed it up, okay? So I'm in function get details by URL, which is in a home controller, which was probably called by web roots. Okay, so he's passing this acupuncture with these letters at the end for no reason. And then the first thing that he does, he replaces those letters with slash. So now he has actual slash, okay? And then he calls some curl API function, which I guess he defines somewhere after that, of this controller. So this controller is this controller that we are in, okay? So this is its own function. So I would assume that there is a function curl something API somewhere there, doesn't matter. So if I step over that, my result, as you can see, is some sort of JSON or whatever it is, again, that formatted structure of the data. So then he says my list is nothing, okay? And then he says my HTML is this thing which says this hello thingy, okay? So he now needs to check, is he's decoding this my result, and then checks is, once he decodes this, if there is a thing called related link, and is that set up, okay? But one thing what he's doing is he's decoding this my result again here. So if you are decoding it twice, it takes a little bit of time. So I wouldn't decode this multiple times. I would decode it once and then do it this, okay? So if this is set, so obviously he has a related link, so it is set. So he gets a related link. So let's see those related links. So related links, it has one related links, which is that, okay? Something about acupuncture. So this condition is acupuncture and related link is acupuncture, fine. So now he goes to those links and again replaces some endpoints. Again, he's modifying these things. And then he adds to the list the final endpoint. Oh my God, this is getting ridiculously confusing. What the hell is my point and endpoint and so on. Okay. He did put one comment, get the details of selected disease, but it makes no sense to me, okay? Then he adds this text, which as we saw is displayed. And then he adds the list, and my list is list of links, so it's a link to acupuncture. So if I look at my page, it's this link here. That's what we are seeing, okay? After that, he gets main entity of page. So, but he's again decoding this my result. So you see, he's decoding like 16 times, and he will do it again and again and again. So We don't need this, all right? So we can make this code more optimized. But basically what it has, this is the problem because we are getting the data from NHS and this JSON format of the data is awkward, okay? So he has to check, does it have a link, does it have main entity, does it have a table, does it have this, and then process that accordingly. So this is what it does, okay? But then I want to show you a little bit thing, okay? So when he does all this, he will end up with the complete HTML, okay? So let me press play, and then because I put another breakpoint here, and step over this. So my HTML is that. So what he has generated basically is this thing with these links and so on. He has generated this HTML. What the hell? Funny. So he has generated this HTML from the JSON data. So he had data in a JSON. And how do I know that? Because I can look in the database of these conditions. Okay, so I'll click play and I will stop this. So if I go to my admin utilities database and I go to the one that we are talking about, AISIHA, and I go to the conditions and select data, and then I should have the condition called acupuncture, okay? So if I click edit on this one, okay, so this is the show description, and this is the main description, okay? So this is the article. What is on? Article is already in HTML. So the article is in HTML. So what is this doing?
Translating?
But he's calling curl API, it's not translating. So where is this curl API function, okay? Ah, now it makes sense. He's not reading the condition from my database. This is not reading the conditions from the database. It actually goes to the NHS websites, puts this final URL for the website, and then, of course, the website will he will send a request, and this request will return the response. So this is not coming from my database. This is why I didn't see any sort of conditions, model or classes or stuff like that. He calls this function. So this, what we see on our screen, what we saw a second ago, is not data from, oh my God, go back, yeah. So this is not in our database. It might be, but it might be older version. So this is actual live data from the NHS, okay? So I guess what he wanted to show here is live data from the NHS. If I wanted to show the live the data from our database, it would be 50 times easier, okay? So I would probably do something like that. But let me show you, where is this thing? Okay, so this is his code, okay? So this is the one, okay? So if I reload this, I put DD, dump and die, just to see am I at the right place. I can do it with breakpoints. I can do it whatever I want. That's fine, okay? I can also say DD end point, okay? So it's this acupuncture fine, okay? So let's copy this from here to there and then say, give me this final endpoint, okay? Final endpoint is acupuncture slash, okay? But I don't even want slash, okay? Let me just do this, okay? And if I refresh, then I just have acupuncture, right? So in my database, let me show you something, appsource.com. My database, my admin, utilities, database, okay? Inside this AICHA, okay, inside the table conditions, if I select the data, I have these things called endpoints, so I should have acupuncture somewhere. Yeah, maybe I missed it, okay. There you go, so it does have this trailing slash, so I should have done this, so I can just Control Z that, okay? So if I refresh this, it has a trailing slash, okay? So now I need to do to find this article is say, okay, article is condition where endpoints is endpoint. And I want first. I don't want the whole list, okay? And I copy this and put it in DD. And I refresh this page, and I get server error. Okay? So something went wrong, okay? Why did I get a server error 500? Well, for two reasons, okay? Laravel has two modes, or more, but two which I put, development and production, okay? If I'm in development mode, it will give me that lovely little breakdown of everything what went wrong. If I'm in a production mode, it will give me error 500, okay? So I need to change something.
You have a breaking point on the beginning of...
Yeah, but I'm not running, I killed. Yeah. So see here, the environment of this app is production. Okay? So I'm going to change that because I want to see what the error is. Okay? But now it's not going to do it. Okay? Why is it not going to debug? Because debug is false, true. Okay? And it might not still do it. Okay? Boom. Now I have empty, boom. You know, very weird. Okay? So one thing what Laravel is really good, but it's annoying, is that it caches settings and stuff like that. So I need to reset the settings of this. So it's probably didn't pick up what I just said. But see, I say use app conditions. So he made this as a plural. So, and it shouldn't be a plural. So it should be one condition. The model is one condition. Should be singular, but this developer, whoever did this, used the plural. So of course it's not going to find this. So I need to say that, okay? And if I refresh this, boom, null. Okay? So it executed it, but it didn't find the article. So conditions where endpoints, I look at the database, it's endpoints. So I should be able to find this one.
Could it make a difference if it's relatively small a stuff?
Yeah, it makes a difference. Linux is case sensitive, you know. His question is, does it make a difference as a capital letters and stuff like that? Yes, it does.
I mean, the name itself, acupuncture.
Well, the name itself is the endpoint. So this is what I'm getting here. So I can put multiple things in DDs with the comma. So if I go here, refresh that. So acupuncture, Oh my God, it's still that. Well, of course it's that because I didn't use final endpoint because I just put endpoint here. Okay, so hopefully this will do the trick. Yep, that's what it works. And then I need to put here this just for me to see. So I was using a wrong thing. I was searching for his acupuncture 0 ABC, whatever it is. So now I got the condition which has show description and article and so on. Okay, so this is me. I got to that condition without calling NHS API, and it's of course faster, and I don't need to format it because it's already formatted. Okay, so right now that I have the article, I'm not going to dump and die here. So I got the article. I'm just going to ignore all this. And I'm going to say, give me disease and pass this thing article. And this is not going to work now because this view disease details is just echoing my HTML, but since I called it article, I need to echo article. Okay? So this is what's in our database.
I have one question.
Yes?
How do you get this in the database?
Ha! How do I get this in a database? It's a very good question. What we had to do to get this in a database is write a script which will go to NHS and say, give me all conditions with the first letter A. So it gives the list. Okay, we'll take a note of that. So first condition, give me all the details that you have. And then we analyze what it gave, and it says, does it have any links? Because there are hidden conditions which are not listed or hidden pages. So we say, there's a link, give me that as well. Give me that as well. Give me that as well. Okay? So we call that same API few thousand times. Okay? And then we stored all of that in our database. So every time when we get a result, we would then save it in our database. Okay? The object of this at the end of the day will be that the application that we build works offline. So you can't call NHS, but you can't call AISIHA.com. So the whole database has to be packaged with the application. So if I don't have mobile data or don't have signal or anything like that, I can still read all the information. Okay? So this is why we are getting the data, storing it, and then of course when we want to process this data multiple times to do translations and other operations on it, it's much easier if it's here than I have to call it again and again and again. The third thing why we are doing is, as you saw, NHS gives us this JSON, which is never good. JSON is just a big string file. So it's never good. So we need to transform that in some sort of much manageable type of variable. So is it array or is it object or typical object or so on? And as I said, we did this in a month, so there are many mistakes here, but we just wanted to prove the concept of things, that we can get all those conditions. It was the one that you do something with that was another thing. That we can translate it to Arabic badly was another one. That we can put it in a mobile app and then people can say what's wrong with it. So there are reasons why we did it and why this code is bad. But it's a beautiful example because now what we can do is give you tasks to fix this stuff. Okay? So there are many fixes that we already saw and improvements that you guys can do in this application, okay? So I had a little call, internal call with the guys, whoever was on it, you know, explain what the application will look like. If you haven't seen it, it's on Skype. So you can have a look at that, what we are trying to accomplish. But we are not going to throw away this. We are just going to improve it and build on top of it. Okay? Because it's 6 o'clock, I think we spend around 2 hours. So I just want to see, do you guys have any questions? Any other questions online or here in the thing? Is everything clear? Yes?
So now when do you use a variable with the dollar sign and one with the brackets? Because in the function also it was used both of them.
Yeah, but which brackets? Square brackets like this?
No, just small things.
Notation.
Yeah.
She's talking about the string notation.
Yeah, so the red one and the blue one.
This is blue, light blue.
Yeah.
Okay? And this is red.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But this is in square brackets.
I mean the other brackets.
But this is,
Notation stuff.
so I have the brackets here, curly brackets,
No, sorry, I don't know the English word. It's just these little things that
Quotes.
support the word.
this,
Yeah,
this single quote.
yeah.
Okay? Single quote means it's string. Okay? So this is not a variable, it's a string. Okay? So it's text. Now, this text is in square brackets, which means there is an array of elements. An array can have a thing called key value. So the key is the name and the value is so. So I can have a key could be name and value could be Andre. And then another key could be surname and value could be, I don't know, Johnson or and so on. Okay? So if I want to retrieve the name, I say in square brackets, give me in quotes name. So it looks for the key that I called name and returns me Andre. So this is not a variable, this is an array element which is called like this.
But it refers to the variable eventually.
Well, the array is stored in the variable, okay? So I can have users name, okay? So this is getting, if the users is an array, then it will get the value of its key name, okay? But since we have object-oriented programming, we don't do that. We typically do users name like this, okay? And that gives me a property. So this name is not a variable, but it's a name of the property or name of the key, depending do I put it in square brackets or after the arrow, or it can be an argument in, you know, so the variable is still users. Any other questions, guys? No. So we are talking about object-oriented programming, okay? And I wanted to show you the amount of effort you need to put in order to understand the code. You can't just scroll and I tried to show you how to find things. I tried to show you where's the documentation, why Google doesn't help you, okay? So, and I tried to show you when I want to program something, I first write my comments, and when you don't have comments, I try to show you what is wrong with that, okay? So these are the things that you will need to do, okay? So when you say to me, Andre, how do I do this when you get your tasks to do? If you didn't write the comments, I need to get this guy's name under this condition and this, you have to explain to yourself how you do it. And then you have to try to find in the code something similar, because you saw my user's example is exactly the same how I get my conditions example. Okay, so you can find something similar somewhere else. I try to show you how to find these things in the code. Okay, so I need you to check this code, check the code of, and see what is going on here. Okay, and try to explain to yourself, okay, that's a variable, that's a constant, that's whatever it is, So I'm just going to undo all this. So, okay. So next time, we are going to go similarly in more details about object-oriented programming, but I think we will have a specific tasks to do, okay, hopefully. So we would actually have discussions one by one. How would you approach this task, okay? So how would we do this, so to give you that start of the thinking process. How do I fix this? How do I get this? How do I make this happen, okay? So hopefully guys will create some tasks for you, and if you're online, you can also have a task, let's fix this page, let's fix this link here, okay, this dashboard link, okay? That's a task. How would we do this? Is a completely different question. It's hard. So next time I will be working with you individually, and we will record that so people can see. So please prepare whatever your questions are, try to think, try your hardest to get, but at some point you will get stuck, so then we can go into the task and cover those tasks and try to resolve 4 or 5 of them, which are quite typical for kind of things that we will encounter in our development, okay? And then we'll move on to the next topic next week. So we are doing still this basic stuff. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for your time, and hope you enjoyed it. Till the next time, bye-bye.